Talk to us a little bit about why a real estate investor, or really anyone, should have a VA. Like, give us some examples of what they can do, what their capabilities are, and why we should try to delegate some of these things.
Anything you can do on your computer, and I will give all of your listeners a tip that could be life-changing if they act on it.
You're almost like your own ideal avatar, right? Because you are kind of the resistant business owner who thinks they can do or needs to do everything yourself. And you don't even know what you need. And so you have this experienced VA kind of telling you, well, she's asking a bunch of questions. Before you know it, you're like, my gosh, I actually need this person. And so talk to us a little bit about why a real estate investor, or really anyone, should have a VA. Like, give us some examples of what they can do, what their capabilities are, and why we should try to delegate some of these things.
Anything you can do on your computer, and I will give all of your listeners a tip that could be life-changing if they act on it. Ahem. Get a subscription to Loom, and that is basically it records what's on your screen, and your face pops up in the corner. And as you're doing everything for the next month, record a video of everything that you do repetitively. This is where I find the water bill. This is where I find the electric bill. This is where I find the natural gas bill. This is how I log into QuickBooks and put it in. Once you have that down, anybody can do that by watching the video. And all of a sudden, your life gets simpler and you get a lot of time back. And that is the biggest premise of anything you can do that's on the computer, your VAs can do. The same applies for analyzing properties. Basically, I built out a spreadsheet. I had some formulas I put in, happened to be a Google sheet, and then they put in numbers, and those made ratios, and then those ratios turned green if they were amazing, and 95% turned red, but the 5% that turned green, that's how I was picking the best properties when it was pretty amazing to buy properties in the Smoky Mountains, and it was very easy to make money.
Okay, well, that's pretty cool. So maybe talk about some other things, because I think maybe to you and my first exposure to VAs was similar, mind blowing, of what these people can do. I think maybe there's a myth, or maybe even a perceived reality, that these people are not very they're not very helpful, and at the end of the day, it's just better off if I do it myself. And so talk a little bit more about what VAs can do, like what level of competency do they have? How much instruction do they need? To what degree can they think on their own? Do they have to be told everything what to do? Talk a little bit about their capabilities and competencies.
No, that's a really good lead in. So let me just describe the background of Jess, who basically runs the Rockstar VA business behind the scenes. So she started out working for a real estate agent firm. And basically, she did listings for a year, then she did cold calling for a year, then she did transaction coordination for a year, then she did social media for a year. And then after she had rotated through all the jobs, they said, we just want you to be in charge and manage this team, check all these people's work. And if any one of them is ever sick or on vacation, we want you to fill in. And she said, absolutely. So not only is she doing all these various tasks, but she's filling in for the people and managing the quality of their work. So for example, I still, to this day, analyze every property that becomes available in the Smoky Mountains, which is Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and Tennessee. And the market slowed down for a while. There weren't as many listings, and I had somebody working on that for 2 hours a day. Jess is like, she probably only needs 45 minutes a day tops. I suggest we take the extra hour and 15 minutes and move it over to this other task of interviewing VAs for the company. So all the social media posts that are getting made for our company are getting done by VAs. Like I said, the management the bookkeeping is getting done, is all virtual assistants. But I think where it really comes in for a business owner, and especially somebody that's going to be growing, is you get that manager person in first. That's your one point of contact. And you say, how many other people do I need to hire? And they're kind of running the team. There's been a lot of times where a problem crops up and Jess will just take care of it. And I love that, right? So I'm like, I don't need the phone call, and she knows that I trust her. And 80 85% of the time, she solves it exactly the way I would solve it. And if it's a little bit different, I say I might have done this differently. But I mean, these are people that are college educated. You can get MBAs if you want super business background. Um, and the key point, though, is if you have somebody with the experience that some of the people have, which is harder to find, and you got to pay more for it. Those are the people that are really going to help you grow your business so much faster. So the extra couple dollars an hour you're spending is some of the best money you can spend when you're trying to go to that next level and not have to train the VA to do every single task. If you want the cheapest VA and you're like, 22, 23, 24, 25, and you got way more time than money, that's an excellent plan. That would be a good use of time because you're currently not making as much money and have your investments dialed in. Once you get to remotely established level, or just you don't have a tolerance for super patience, then that's the time that you go with the really experienced person. And that's what the Rockstar VAs provides.
When should someone decide when to get a VA, or even for how many? But when is a good time to get started? When you have what situation?
When you are planning on growing or want some of your time back. I mean, it's amazing when you're working, let's just say you're working 40 hours a week. I was working probably a little bit more than that. I think most people that end up getting a VA really wish they would have done it sooner. It's amazing what happens when you're working, let's just say 50 hours a week, you bring in the VA, you're now working 25. You have this extra time to just kind of get creative, go for a walk, enjoy your family, get some time back, and also have ideas percolate in your head that you weren't able to have before because you were busy logging into the electric company site to do your books and all these other tasks that aren't, that really aren't value added for you to be doing. So I think the other objection I hear that I really disagree with is I have some things for a VA to do, but I don't have enough for them to be full-time, or our company actually offers half-time VAs, which is fairly rare in the space. And basically, I like to break it down and say, well, how much is your time worth? If you're paying this person, let's just say $12 an hour, if your time's worth $50 an hour, if you keep them busy 2 hours a day at the beginning, you're breaking even. And eventually you're going to figure out 3, 4, 5, 6. So for example, when I employed Jess at the very beginning, I was working, I had her working probably 5, 6 hours at the most a day. And I was quite happy to have her sit still for a couple hours and then eventually things grew and I expanded and started the VA company, which was quite the story. I actually have lunch with a bunch of guys in Ann Arbor, and I was telling them how amazing Jess was. And they said, do you think she can find me one like that? And I said, I don't know. Let me ask her. So I asked Jess, and she goes, yeah, I could find somebody pretty good, somebody pretty amazing. So the first 3 virtual assistants that we find for people were 3 people that I have lunch with on a regular basis. And at the end, the conversation was always the same. Dave, what do we owe you? I said, oh, nothing. Don't worry about it. And finally, another guy goes, you do realize you have a virtual assistant placement company and you actually are providing a valuable service and you should charge for this. I'm like, really? I had no idea. So, yeah, so that's how we started.
Yeah, it's
Gave
pretty
the first
amazing.
3 away for free.
Nice. Well, you have a kind of a free bonus for our listeners here, and I'm going to read it, but I don't really know what it is. It's called the Inner Metric Advanced Insights Profile. Okay, what is that thing? Okay, well, and we'll tell people how to get to it in a second here. It's for business owners typically, but what is it used for? Why is this a good thing, and why is it typically cost money?
Right. So if you were to buy this test, it would be $295. We are going to offer it for the first 100 of your listeners for free. And the reason you want to take it is it combines 3 of the world's best profile tools. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you insight into yourself. And so, for example, you don't know whether or how much of a attention to detail person you actually are. If you are not an attention to detail person, let's say you would really want the VA to be more detail oriented. We also give this test to all the VAs to try to match them up with the clients as best we can. Now, if you are more of a detail oriented person, you are going to want somebody that is a bigger thinker and willing to help suggest things to you, kind of like Jess is for me, right? So Jess compliments me wonderfully, and we think a lot alike. I think that's the other thing, to when you're interviewing somebody, whether you're doing it on your own or whether you're doing it with my company. For example, we will get you 5 resumes within a week of you signing up, and then you're interviewing those 5 people. A lot of people make the mistake of saying, this is the best resume, I'm hiring this person, and they don't talk. This is much more of a marriage than a business decision. If you get along really well and are in sync with somebody, it makes a world of difference. That is way more important than this resume reads a little better. All this stuff can be, for the most part, everything can be taught. There's certain level of skills on certain tools. I guess that's the other thing, is you get into some of the real estate tools, and we're able to find people that are experts at that, or HubSpot, CRMs, stuff like that. But bottom line is, the personality and you having chemistry is more important than the resume.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's going to be at themichaelblank.com/VA is where you can find this assessment tool. So the first 100 get it for free. After that's $295. So definitely check that out. And also check out the Rockstar VAs and the services that Dave's company provides. So Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today, man.
Thank you for having me.